A 6-year-old girl says someone is crying under her bed, and no one believes her. No, not until the dog starts growling at the floorboards, not until a hidden room is found beneath her bedroom, and not until the drawings on the walls match the ones she's never seen but draws every night. What was buried in silence is about to be uncovered. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video and tell us where are you watching from. Now, let's jump into the story. Rachel Mendes had never believed in ghosts. She believed in bills, in deadlines, and in getting her daughter to school on time. After the divorce, all she wanted was a quiet place to start over. So when she found the small house on the edge of town, cheap and vacant, it felt like a blessing. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. Her daughter Leah, just 6 years old, had been quiet during the move. She missed her old school, her old room, and the sound of her dad's guitar at night. Rachel tried to cheer her up with pizza movies and a purple unicorn nightlight that glowed gently by her bed. For 2 days, things were peaceful. But on the third night, everything changed. At exactly 3:12 a.m., Rachel woke to the sound of her daughter's voice, soft, trembling. "Mommy," Leah whispered from the hallway. "She's crying again under my bed." Rachel stood frozen. The hallway was dark and cold. She clutched her mug of tea tighter and forced herself to stay calm. "You just had a bad dream, baby," she said gently. But Leah shook her head. "No, it wasn't a dream. She's crying. She says, 'Please help me.'" Rachel swallowed the chill crawling up her spine. She had checked under the bed the night before that. Each time it was empty. No toys, no wind, no movement. But tonight, the room felt colder than usual. It's too cold. Still, she walked Leah back into the bedroom and checked again. She crouched down slowly, lifted the blanket, and peered beneath the bed. Nothing, just dust and old floorboards. "See, honey," Rachel said. "No one's here." But even she didn't believe her own voice. The next night, it happened again. Same time, same whisper, same claim. "She's crying again. Mommy, please help her." Rachel sat up in bed, exhausted and frustrated. She wanted to believe it was just a child's imagination. But Leah wasn't the dramatic type. She was quiet, thoughtful, and now she was scared. That night, Leah refused to sleep in her bedroom. She curled up on the living room couch with her stuffed bunny and a flashlight clutched in her small hands. Rachel let her stay there. She didn't have the heart to say no. On the third night, things got worse. Milo, their golden retriever, usually, slept at the foot of Leah's bed. But when Rachel tried to bring him into the room, he stopped at the doorway. He whined, tail tucked, ears low. He wouldn't go in. Not even when Rachel offered him his favorite treat. "I'm not crazy," Leah whispered, standing behind her mother. Rachel turned slowly, heart pounding. She wanted to believe this was nothing, the stress of moving, the fear of change. But deep inside, something felt off. Something felt wrong. Later that night, Rachel sat in her own bed, trying to read. Her eyes kept drifting to the hallway, and then she heard it. A faint, soft sobbing. It wasn't loud, it wasn't clear, but it was there. A sound that didn't belong. Rachel held her breath. Was it the wind? The pipes? Or something else? But the next morning, she did something she had never done before. She called the police. Not 911, the non-emergency line. She explained everything, trying not to sound like she had lost her mind. "I know it sounds strange," she said, voice shaking, "but my daughter keeps hearing someone crying under her bed, and I think I heard it too." There was a pause. Then the dispatcher said calmly, "We have a local canine officer who handles welfare checks. He's very experienced. I'll send him by." Rachel hung up the phone and sat in silence. She looked over at Leah, still curled on the couch, her bunny clutched tightly in her arms. Outside, the morning light was soft and peaceful. But inside the house, something unseen was stirring. That afternoon, a white SUV pulled into the driveway. On the side, a decal red canine unit, a man in uniform, stepped out. He had kind eyes and calm movements. "I'm Officer Dean Carter," he said. "This is Ranger." From the back seat, a large German shepherd stepped out. His eyes were sharp, his body alert. He moved with purpose. "He doesn't chase suspects anymore," Officer Carter explained. "But he's still got the best nose in the state." Leia peeked through the curtain. When she saw the dog, she stepped outside. "He's going to check my room?" she asked quietly. "Yes, he is," Carter smiled. "And he's very good at finding things other people can't." Rachel stood at the top of the stairs as the officer and Ranger entered the house. Her hands were shaking. Her mind raced. What if they found nothing? What if this was just stress and fear? Or what if her daughter had heard something real? Ranger walked into the house calmly. He sniffed. Yeah. He explored. And then he entered Leia's room. He paused near the bed. His ears perked. His body stilled. He sniffed again. Then he let out a low, steady growl. Not aggressive, not scared, just focused. Rachel's heart pounded in her chest. Officer Carter crouched beside the dog. "He's alerting," he said. "Alerting to what?" Rachel asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Something beneath the floor," Carter replied. "We need to take a closer look." Rachel stood frozen. Her daughter had heard crying. And now the dog was listening too. Whatever was under the floor, it wasn't just her imagination. It was something real. Officer Dean Carter had seen strange things in his career, but this was different. He'd been called to homes before for odd sounds, flickering lights, or children claiming to see shadows. Most of the time it was nothing. Old plumbing, a draft, maybe a mouse. Wasn't the child who convinced him? It was the dog Ranger, his canine partner for over 8 years, was usually calm and obedient. He didn't bark unless there was a reason. He didn't growl unless something felt truly wrong. And now, Ranger stood stiff at the edge of Leia's small, purple room, eyes locked under the bed. He didn't move. He didn't blink. He didn't look away. Rachel stood beside Officer Carter, arms crossed tightly across her chest. Leia stayed behind her, gripping the corner of her mom's sweater with one hand and holding her stuffed bunny in the other. The room felt heavy, like the air had thickened. "Is he okay?" Rachel asked quietly. "He's doing his job," Carter said. "He's found something. Or someone." Carter crouched beside Ranger and ran his hand gently over the dog's back. His fur bristled slightly. Ranger's gaze never shifted. It was fixed, focused, intent. "Can I look underneath again?" Rachel asked, already dropping to her knees. She lifted the blanket, heart pounding. It looked the same. Empty. Just old floorboards. But something was different. It felt colder. It felt wrong. Ranger let out a low whimper. It wasn't fear. It was urgency. "May I check your crawl space access?" Carter asked. "I'd like to look underneath this room." Rachel nodded quickly. "It's outside, around the back. I've never used it." Carter stood. "I'll need Ranger to go with me. He knows what to find." As they stepped outside, Ranger paused. He turned back. He stared at the window of Leia's room. Just one last glance. And then he continued. Rachel stayed inside with Leia, pacing the hallway. She watched the clock. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Then a voice called from outside. "Ma'am, can you come out here, please?" Rachel rushed out, her heart in her throat. Carter stood by the open crawl space, brushing dust from his jacket. His flashlight was clipped to his vest. His face was pale. Ranger stood beside him, ears high, nose twitching. "There's a sealed area under your daughter's room," he said. "Not part of the normal foundation. Someone covered it in concrete." Rachel blinked. "What? Why?" "That's what we need to find out." Inside the crawl space, just below the floorboards, of Leia's bedroom was a square slab of uneven concrete. Carter had seen things like it before in old cases. Hastily poured, not part of the original construction. Cover-up. "How old is this house?" he asked. "Built in 1968, Rachel replied. "But the realtor said it was vacant for nearly 12 years before I bought it." Carter looked back at the crawl space. Vacant that long meant secrets. Things hidden. things forgotten. He requested permission to bring in a forensic specialist and a structural inspector. Rachel agreed without hesitation. She didn't want guesses. She wanted answers. Later that day, Carter returned with Detective Harlow and a contractor named Brett. They entered the house quietly. Ranger led the way again. He went directly to the bedroom. This time, he didn't sniff around. Sat down, right in front of the bed, and stared at the floor. Again, he wouldn't look away. "Same spot, Carter," said to Harlow. "He hasn't moved from it since yesterday." Brett knelt beside the bed and knocked on the wood. "This isn't original flooring," he said. "Someone patched this in. Different wood. Newer nails.
Ow.
And underneath that, you've got concrete. Doesn't belong." With Rachel's permission, they began carefully pulling up the boards. Dust filled the air. Beneath them was the slab Carter had found, cracked, uneven, not part of any blueprint. This was done in a hurry, Brett noted. Whoever did this wanted to hide something fast. Ranger stood up and took a single step forward. He pressed his paw gently against the slab. Then he looked up. His eyes locked with Rachel's. And again, he didn't look away. "He's telling us something," Carter said. "Something important is beneath that concrete." Rachel's mouth went dry. "Like what?" Carter didn't answer. "Not yet, Detective." Harlow stepped forward. "We need a team," she said. "We need equipment, and we need to be careful." Rachel nodded. Her hand shook. She pulled Leia close. "We'll stay in the living room tonight," she said. That night, Ranger curled at Leia's feet as she slept. The dog didn't close his eyes. Stayed alert, guarding, listening. Waiting by morning, the house was quiet. It's quiet. And Ranger still hadn't looked away. The morning sun rose over the neighborhood, casting long shadows across the lawn. Inside the house, everything felt still. Too still, like the walls were holding their breath. Rachel stood in the kitchen, her hands wrapped around a lukewarm cup of coffee. She hadn't slept much. Neither had Leia. The little girl had curled up on the couch again with her bunny, refusing to return to her room. Ranger sat nearby, alert and silent. His eyes still focused on the hallway that led to the bedroom. He hadn't left that spot since yesterday. Not. Once, by mid-morning, Officer Dean Carter returned. With him came Detective Harlow and the contractor Brett. They brought tools, gear, and a quiet sense of urgency. Rachel opened the door for them without a word. She didn't need to ask what they were here to do. She already knew. Ranger led them once again to Leia's bedroom. He walked inside, tail low, and sat at the same place he had the day before, right in front of the bed. He stared down at the floor. Brett set to work first, pried up the last remaining floorboards, revealing the full patch of poured concrete underneath. Was about 4 feet wide and roughly poured. Definitely not original. Let rushed. Detective Harlow crouched down beside him. "This wasn't just someone patching a pipe," she said. "This was a cover-up." "What kind of person pours concrete into a child's bedroom floor?" Rachel asked, her voice quiet and unsteady. "Someone hiding something they don't want found," Carter answered. Brett started chipping away at the concrete. The hammer echoed through the small room like a heartbeat. Each strike sent dust into the air. Ranger stayed back but didn't move. He kept his gaze on the floor, blinking, never looking away. After an hour of careful work, Brett hit something. A hollow sound. Metal. He paused, then gently brushed away the remaining dust and concrete. Beneath the slab was a small rusted hatch. A handle sat flush with the surface. "What is that?" Rachel asked, stepping back. "Not part of any house plans," Brett replied. "This was built on purpose." Carter knelt and tested the handle, groaned but moved. Together, they lifted the hatch. A rush of cold, stale air escaped from below. It smelled like time had stopped. Carter shined his flashlight into the dark opening. The beam lit up a narrow space, about 7 feet deep. Concrete walls, no stairs, no windows. "It's not a crawl space," Harlow said. "It's a room." "A forgotten room," Carter whispered. Rachel stood frozen. Her heart pounded in her chest. Leia had been sleeping right above this. They lowered a small ladder into the space. Detective Harlow went down first. She moved slowly, flashlight scanning every inch of the walls. "Oh my God," she muttered. "You need to see this." Carter followed next. Then Brett. Rachel stayed at the top, staring down with wide eyes. Inside the hidden room, the walls were covered in drawings. Hundreds of them. Stick figures, stars, sun shapes, and words small, scratched words written over and over. "Please let me out. Want to go home?" In the corner was an old, rusted cot. The mattress was torn, springs poked out. On the floor beside it sat a tin plate and a cracked cup. This wasn't storage, Harlow said. This was a cell. Rachel felt her knees go weak. She leaned against the doorframe. She couldn't look away. "How long has this been here?" she asked. "Judging by the decay, decades," Carter replied. "This room's been sealed off." For a very long time, Ranger let out a single bark. Loud, sharp, final. He pawed once at the edge of the hatch, then sat down watching. Guarding Detective Harlow radioed for a full forensic team. They needed to collect everything. The drawings, the objects. Even the dust. Back in the living room, Leia watched cartoons with the sound turned low. She held her bunny tight. Her eyes didn't leave the hallway. Rachel sat beside her and gently touched her hair. "Baby," she whispered. "What did you hear under your bed?" Leia didn't look away from the screen. "A girl," she said softly. "She was crying. She said, 'Help me.'" Rachel felt tears rise in her eyes. She blinked them away. This was real. All of it. That night the forensic team worked late. They carefully documented every mark on the walls, every crack, every object. They found one item buried beneath the cot. A small metal bracelet, engraved with a name. Amy. Rachel stood in the doorway. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Ranger sat beside her, still silent, watchful. They had found the forgotten room. But they had not yet uncovered the whole truth. Not yet. Leia sat on the living room floor with her sketch pad open across her lap. Her tiny fingers moved gently, slowly drawing shapes in blue and purple crayon. Ranger lay beside her, his head resting on his paws, eyes half closed but always alert. She was quiet now. No more crying, no more fear. But she was different. Since the forgotten room had been discovered, Leia hadn't once asked to sleep in her own bed. She didn't ask about the crying girl anymore either. But she drew. She drew all the time. Rachel watched from the kitchen table. Her eyes followed each stroke of the crayon. A sun, a house, a little girl with curly hair wearing a bracelet, and above her, dozens of stars. "Who's that, baby?" Rachel asked softly. "Amy," Leia whispered. "She draws stars too." Rachel's hand trembled around her coffee cup. The name had been confirmed by forensics. The metal bracelet found beneath the cot in the hidden room had the name etched into it. Amy, the girl in Leia's drawings, wasn't imagined. She had been real. Her story had been buried beneath their house for over 30 years. Detective Harlow had returned with the news. Amy Preston, missing since 1993, last seen walking home from school. Her case had gone cold. But now, it had new life. When Rachel told Leia the girl had a name, the 6-year-old simply nodded. "I know," she said. "She told me." Rachel didn't know what to make of it. Maybe it was imagination, maybe not. Either way, something had changed. Leia drew constantly now. Always the same things. Stars. Stick figures. The words, "I want to go home." Sometimes she drew a door with no handle. Sometimes she drew eyes looking through a wall. Ranger stayed close to her always. Like he knew she was still carrying something inside her. Like he was guarding her from something invisible. One night, as Rachel tucked Leia into the guest room bed, she noticed a fresh page on the sketch pad. It was a girl in a blue dress holding hands with another stick figure labeled "Me." They were surrounded by stars. "Did you draw this tonight?" Rachel asked. Leia nodded. "She's happy now." She said, "Thank you." Rachel's throat tightened. "Where did she go?" Leah said softly, pointing at the ceiling. "Into the stars." The next morning, Officer Carter stopped by with news. They had found more drawings. Deep inside the subfloor room, etched in places too high for a child to reach unless they stood on the cot, each one had stars. Just like Leia's, the patterns matched. The styles matched. "Your daughter is drawing the same things that were carved 30 years ago," he told. "Rachel, we don't know how or why, but she's connected to this." Rachel didn't argue. She had stopped questioning the unexplainable. Sometimes she believed children could see and hear things adults couldn't. And sometimes dogs could. The investigation deepened. The FBI brought in specialists. They searched nearby homes and old city records.
Why?
2 more underground rooms were found beneath neighboring properties, both empty, both built with the same design. Ranger barked when they opened the second one. But this time, he didn't whine. He didn't hesitate. He just sat down and waited, like he knew it was already over. The town kept quiet. The press didn't. Headlines called it the bunker case. Others called it the girl who drew stars. But none of them knew the truth, not the way Rachel and Leia did. In time, a small memorial was built at the edge of town. It featured a bronze statue of a young girl kneeling beside a German shepherd. Below it, the engraving read, "For those who spoke without words, in memory of the lost, and the ones who found them." On the day of the dedication, Rachel and Leia visited the site. Leia wore her yellow dress and carried her drawing pad. Ranger walked calmly beside them. She placed one of her newest drawings beneath the statue. It was a picture of a girl in the sky surrounded by stars. "Goodbye, Amy," she whispered Rachel, knelt beside her and hugged her gently. Months passed. Investigation continued. But the house was no longer their home. They had moved across town to live with Rachel's sister. Leia started school again, made new friends. But she still drew stars. One day her teacher asked her why she always drew them. Leia smiled and said, "They help people find their way home." That evening, Rachel sat by the window, watching her daughter and Ranger curled up on the rug. Peace had returned, but the story had changed their lives forever. Some stories stay buried, but some find their way to the surface through courage, instinct, and love. And sometimes, the smallest voices carry the loudest truths, especially when they come from a little girl who drew stars.